So I have done this talk for youth groups many times, and this is so exciting. And I always start out with a little story. So say you're 30 years old, 40 years old, well, 50 years old, and you load up the kids and the spouse and you go on a drive and you go to the Cincinnati Zoo, and you've been driving. You park the car, you get out, you walk in the gates, you grab this flimsy little map, and you decide, well, instead of going to the aquarium part, I'm going to go over to the safari part. And you see the zebras galloping about, you see rhinos, and then your family is going off seeing the monkeys, and they're throwing mud balls at each other and just having a good time. But you kind of sit back and you look off to the side, and you see this massive, thick door. And well, curiosity just gets to the best of you, right? And so you look around, no one's looking. You grab the doorknob and it opens. Well, golly, let's just go down the stairs. And as you're going down these steps, it puts you in the mind of a dungeon. It's damp. It's a damp basement kind of feel. And you get down there and you're looking down and you can barely see. And then all of a sudden you look up and you see the biggest lion you've ever seen in your life. I mean, its paws are as big as your head. And it's behind bars. It's in its cage. And you can tell it doesn't really like you being in its presence. I mean, obviously it's the king of the jungle, but it doesn't really give much fuss about it. And as you're looking at this lion, you're seeing a lot of gray in its mane. You can look at the muscles of this lion and you can tell that it's deteriorating, it's atrophying. It's just, it's been in captivity for far too long. Well, my question to you is, what if the bars that are in between you and the lion aren't actually bars? What if it's a mirror? And what if that crippled lion that you're looking at is not a lion? It's you. Ultimately my question is for you is, do you have a purpose? And I ask these youth group kids all the time, do you have a purpose? God made you for a reason. Do you know that purpose? Or is that purpose locked away in a basement somewhere for no one to ever see? Because that is not what God created you for. So fast forward this story, Ellen had terrible migraines. They were horrendous. They were so bad she would have a migraine more often than not. And she would see neurologists and they gave no hope. You've heard this story if you watch The Lighthouse of Chiropractic, but they gave absolutely no hope. And so we had to seek something else. And we found chiropractic, and chiropractic really swooped in and just saved the day. And there's a longer version of this story you can see on another episode, but it absolutely saved the day. And so I decided, well, golly, I want to do that. I want to save the day. I want to. That chiropractor gave Ellen back to me. He gave me my wife back. I want to do that for other people. And so I go off to chiro school. I study really hard. I get through the classes. I pass my boards, blah, blah, blah. And then I land a job, an associate job, where I'm working as a chiropractor under another office. And it was phenomenal. It was a huge office. I was the fourth doctor there, but I did a lot of comparing. And I don't know if anyone on this episode that I'm speaking to right now ever compares, but I started comparing. And I'm comparing my chapter 1 to these other doctors that are on their chapter 20, which is silly to do, but we all do it. And I started doubting myself. I started going down this self-pity spiral of, I can't do this anymore. And so one day I woke up, and as I was getting ready, and Ellen was actually the massage therapist for the office that we were working at. And I said, hon, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm going to quit. I'm going to tell the owners. and I'm going to go work for a factory somewhere. I'm not good enough to be a chiropractor. I'm not making the difference in people's lives that I thought I could. She lit up like a firecracker. She grabbed me by my shirt. And mind you, she was about 6 months pregnant at the time. She grabbed me and she pinned me up against the wall. And she was pointing her finger at me and she said, "Don't you ever let me hear you say that again. You're the reason I don't have migraines anymore," because I was continuing to take care of her. She was, a maintenance patient of mine. My wife was. But then, what really hit me was she looked down at her belly, and she pointed to Isaiah. And he said, "He needs you too." I'll be honest, that was a bit of a game changer. That little buddy that she was pointing to, he's now 4, and we're working on potty training. A little side story from what I'm actually talking about was he has a nasty habit of pooping in the bathtub. Everything loosens up and everything comes out. So that's your little side story for you on Isaiah, my 4-year-old. But at the time, he wasn't 4. He was developing in her belly. And so from that moment, everything changed. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to get committed. I'm not doing this self-pity, self-doubt. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to make a difference for people I don't even know yet. And so what we decided was we need to get out of that large office. We need to start our own family-based, Christian-based office. So we decided to move to Salem, a town we didn't know anybody, had no connections to. Really, we only drove through Salem as we were going to Hanover College when we were in undergrad school. But we moved here and we decided we're going to make this our home. And I remember going to the first Chamber of Commerce meeting. I remember the day we purchased the building. We gave everything we had for the down payment of this building that I'm sitting in right now. And we had no idea what we were going to do. And we unlocked the door, and Isaiah was now at this time born. He was about a couple weeks old when we moved to Salem. And he had a soiled diaper. Ellen is in panic mode because we just gave away everything we had for this dream of ours. And so she is panicking. She's crying. Isaiah is crying. Well, I had to go to the back and just... I couldn't let her see me weak. Maybe that was pride, but there's a lot of struggle when you first open a business. There's a lot of struggle when you pursue the dream, pursue the purpose that God has for you, because you don't see everything. You just see a little light at the end of the tunnel. You're not full. You're still in the tunnel. Sometimes it's hard. And so hopefully I'm speaking to somebody right now. I don't know who. I have no idea who I'm talking to, but I hope this helps somebody. So we were committed. We gave, like I said, we gave everything we had. So a little analogy is kind of my favorite breakfast, bacon and eggs. And so in bacon and eggs or the chicken, it's involved, right? It lays some eggs. It's involved. The pig, well, he's committed. He's willing to make some sacrifices. Now, obviously, I don't want you to sacrifice all of you like the pig did to make bacon, but you do have to make some sacrifices. You have to have that grit of no quit attitude. The second point I want to jump to is smile at adversity. The reason why I want you to smile when you're going through the lows and through the valleys and through your adversities is because through that, you can actually be a light. So when we first came to town, and I'm working at Family Dollar because I had to make some sort of money, and it's kind of silly, but I was a doctor, with all this degree and education and all that. and I'm making minimum wage working at Family Dollar as a cashier, just so I could get groceries for my new family. And I remember that, and I was like, I'm going to be different. I'm not going to have this pity party. I'm going to be the weirdest, I like to say weirdest, most abnormal cashier Washington County has ever seen. And so I would have to sell these Reese cup things, and I was just very bubbly. And so one day this lady came through, and she was probably mid 60s, and she seemed a little distressed, but I'm still bubbly. And she comes to me, and I say, "Hey, I'm having an awesome day. Would you like to know why?" And she's like, "Well, sure, whatever, kid." And I said, "Because I get to see you." And I smiled. And she instantly said, "Oh, honey, you are an angel." And started to cry. She said, "You have no idea what I'm going through right now. My kids are hooked on drugs. I'm losing my house. I am at a loss." And that is the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me in months. And I'm thinking about that going, cool, but I'm just being bubbly. I'm being silly. I'm trying to make the best out of this minimum wage job. But when I meditated on that night, and I thought about it, I was like, if I can make that big of an impact, a difference on someone's life as a cashier, what am I going to be doing when I'm going for my purpose that God has given me as for me being a chiropractor? For whoever is listening to this, whatever your purpose is, God gave you. And it's, you really, well, I'm going to coach you a little bit. You ought to do it because that's God ordained. If there's something laying on your heart, do it. The other part of this point, as smiling at adversity, is be a cork. And so when I used to wear the clinic jacket and I had all these pockets, in one of my pockets, I was always have a little cork in my pocket. And the big thing with that is, well, let's use this for an analogy. You got a cork, you take it to the bottom of a bucket of water. Well, eventually it's going to bloop, 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 pop to the top. You take it to the bottom of an 8-foot pool. Well, eventually it's going to go bloop, 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 back to the top. So what if you take that same cork and you take it to the bottom of the ocean? Eventually, bloop, 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 it comes right back. So life is actually going to pull you down. And many of us know this. Many of us has gone through quite a bit of struggle in our lives. And there's all sorts of struggles out there, different struggles. Everybody has that Achilles heel. But you can either view yourself as a lead pipe that's just going to sink to the bottom and stay there, or are you going to view yourself as a little cork destined to come back up? And so that's why I want you to smile at adversity. And then the big point I want to make is know your source. Now, as we're doing a Facebook Live, and this isn't a live lecture, and I can't have you with pen and paper do this, but kind of imagine with me for a second, if you had a piece of paper and you drew in the middle a bucket, and then you drew a all sorts of sludge spigots that just pouring out toxic waste, right? And another massive bucket trying to get to your bucket, the middle bucket, is just pure, clean, infinity water. Okay. And then underneath you have these little buckets. Okay. And there's a pipe from your main bucket in the center of your page to all these 5 buckets. Okay. So really what I'm trying to describe, and with words without a picture, which is a little bit of a challenge. So bear with me. But all those sludge spigots, well, that's the world. That's all the lies. That's all the toxicity. That's the drama on Facebook, which I know I'm on Facebook right now. But there is a lot of negativity in our media and our social media. There's negative things. There's negative people, and you got to filter that out. But I want to go back to the main bucket, that center bucket. Who is that? Well, that's you. And that big spigot with pure, clean water, well, that's God. God is trying to pour his love, his joy, his pureness into us every day. So what in the world is the deal with the little buckets? Well, to be honest, those little buckets are people that you're encountering. Those are people that look up to you, and you're probably already right now saying, hold up, pause this video, I'm done. Ain't nobody following or listening me. I am no leader. And in the stats, I've seen this before, but I have forgotten the stats, so forgive me. But you encounter hundreds, if not thousands of people every year during your lifetime. And you can have that positive influence, or you can have that negative influence on people. You have no idea how you're going to impact somebody. But there is people. You got your spouse that's looking up to you. You got your kids looking up to you. You have, well, all sorts of people. And I could go through the list. If I knew you individually, I could make you a long list. And so let's think about this for a second, because you have to filter out that sludge and allow the good in. So the question is your bucket, what percentage of it is sludge and what percentage is goodness? Because whatever that is what you are pouring out. And so I want you to keep that in mind, because as we talk about your purpose and your giftedness, well, it ain't about you. God pours that into you, but you are pouring that talent and gift to other people. So it ain't about you. It's about the people that you're serving, the people that you're leading. So a lot of the time I often wonder, what if I gave up? What if I gave up on my dream, on my talents, and never looked back and just went to a factory and worked somewhere? The biggest thing is Isaiah, because Isaiah, when he was born, he wasn't born regular vaginal Ellen tried and tried and tried. He ended up being C-section. And I watched the doctor rip, twist, and pull my son out, my little buddy. And they did all these, tests that they do on infants when they come out. And according to them, he was fine. He was normal. But when we got to the room and I was actually able to hold my little buddy for the first time, I turned his head to the one side. Oh, that was fine. Turned it to the other side, and he would just scream, just absolutely tears in his eye, just bawling. And so I checked him, and I adjusted my son after 20 minutes of being born. And I often wonder, well, what if I wasn't a chiropractor anymore? What if I gave up? What would my son's life be like if that subluxation, that misalignment in his neck that wouldn't even allow him to look a certain direction, what if that nerve interference stayed there for years and I did nothing about it? And that's the question I have for you is, what would happen to people if you never allowed your talent, your gift, your purpose to shine? And I want to make this point because this is, I think, of value. But if you remember Ellen pinning me up against the wall, so, the Holy Spirit has a voice. And for her, he was using her vocal cords. And I want to venture to say this. The Holy Spirit does have a voice, but sometimes it may need you. It may need you and your vocal cords to speak life, speak truth into someone, speak encouragement to someone. And if you're someone that's needing encouragement, there's someone out there that's going to encourage you. There's someone going through something similar to what you have gone through or going through that can speak life into you. For me, the struggle of opening a chiropractic office, well, I'm going to be able to speak to those young chiropractors opening up an office, and I can encourage them. There are other things that I have not gone through that I can't speak to. I can't encourage because I haven't gone through. I haven't walked that walk. But if you've walked a walk and you've been through something, I want to encourage you. I want you to share that. I want you to be a light to someone, because there's probably someone right now on this podcast, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, that needs your encouragement. So I want to encourage that. Now, I'm making sure I don't lose track of what I wanted to say. I want to give you a quote. When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left and could say, I used everything you gave me. Irma Bombeck. And so we're back at the zoo, and you're walking up the stairs, and all of a sudden you hear this massive cling, bang. The door is broke down, and you turn around and you see this massive lion with all its glory, all its mane, all its muscles, and you realized that the beast has been awoke. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson today. Couple brief announcements. I know I made